What's going on, people? Back with a bang. This is the Money Manager, back here to bring you guys another video today. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the Israel-Hamas war and how that affects the stock market. Now, first and foremost, this is an educational video. It's not financial advice, and it's not me saying, oh, politically you should be viewing the situation as this or that. It's for those who are invested in the stock market, who need to manage their portfolio adequately, and how the war, the conflicts going on will affect the stock market. So, first and foremost, on a human level, it's very sad to see what we're seeing. You know, people are getting dragged across, bodies are getting dragged across Gaza. We're nowhere near the situation. We're seeing so many different videos and clips of just things that you don't want to see. People are getting abused, raped, kidnapped, all that kind of stuff. And again, it's very sad to see. So RIP to those who have lost their lives in the conflict. And of course, our hearts go out to those who are out there. Thoughts and prayers with them always. So when it comes to the markets, how they're affected by the war, the news on the war, what's going on, the conflicts. First and foremost, the stock market this week has been bullish. That means it's been on the rise. You're probably wondering, why has that happened? Well, actually, we saw a similar situation last year with Ukraine and Russia. So when this happens, what's often happening is we're anticipating the real danger, the situation getting worse. Right now, the situation is being contained in the stock market's eyes, which is why you're seeing stocks still push up. You saw the S&P 500 continue pushing up. You see the tech stocks continue pushing up. NASDAQ continue rising. But when it comes to war, when it comes to conflict, there are specific stocks which may shoot up. There are specific stocks which may decline in price. But overall, the markets are not completely shaken. Now, there's many different factors when it comes to bond rates, when it comes to inflation, when it comes to crude oil, all that kind of stuff, which will be affected and which I will discuss later on in the video. But just first and foremost, as you've probably seen it twice now in the last couple of years, when there's immediate news of war, it doesn't mean that all the stocks are going to crash and the market's just going to tank. That is not the case. So as I mentioned, the markets have been holding up right now. Recently, there's been more tension, and that's pretty common in the markets. When there's tension, you see a bit of uncertainty, unrest. There is a period where the markets do start to hold up, which is what we're seeing right now. So when will we see a more negative impact on the economy? Well, in regards to the stock market, let's say the situation in the Middle East gets worse. Let's say Syria and Lebanon's conflicts increase. Let's say the conflicts between Iran and Israel start to shake up a bit more. Israel starts to view Iran as more of a threat. When those kind of things happen, and even more things happen, let's say with the countries around the Gulf Coast, then you will see the economy start to wobble a little bit more, get a little bit weaker. You'll see more cause for concern. And that's when you see more likelihood of the overall stock markets dropping. Again, you've seen a similar situation last year. We've also seen this in the past with different wars in Russia, different years. And again, like I said, you see more countries involved, you see more sectors being affected, then you're probably likely to see this market start dropping even further. So one thing I think is important to touch on, as I mentioned earlier, is oil prices, crude oil. So just to give you a brief background. So in 1973, you had the Yom Kippur War. Again, Israel was involved with various Arab states. Now, at that period of time, crude oil was, just like it is now, abundant in the Middle East. Now, what happened there came a period of time where there was an oil crisis, a shortage of oil, because OPEC refused to sell oil, provide oil to the countries who were backing Israel. So I think this was about a 5-6 month period where there was an oil shortage. And of course, that saw the prices of oil skyrocket. So while countries, governments were supporting Israel, they were losing out on being able to have access to oil. Now, obviously, fast forward to first the 2000s, where there was a shale oil boom in the US, which obviously helped a lot more. And then fast forward all the way to now. How does that affect what's going on now? How does it affect the stock market? Well, you have Iran. Iran is a major oil producer. So Iran are not majorly involved in the war right now. Of course, they have their tensions with Israel. I understand that. But think about this. Let's say, as I mentioned earlier, the conflicts, the tensions increase, and Israel and Iran decide to really go at war with each other. In that case, what we may see again is a shortage of oil. You may see the prices of oil start to increase. You may see Saudi Arabia get involved. Again, another major oil producer. That will cause oil prices to continue increasing. And you're probably wondering, why would Iran be involved? How does that work? I'm not going to go too in depth in it. And just so you get a brief background again, Israel in conflict with Hamas. Iran is a major weapons provider to Hamas. Again, like I said, conflicts and tensions can increase between Israel and Iran for that reason. So if the war expands and Iran is more involved with the war, you'll definitely see a spike in oil prices. Right now, crude oil is about $85, $86. So if the war expands and Israel are getting more involved with Iran in regards to conflicts, Iran is more involved in the war, then you'll probably see an oil price closer to $100. Right now it's at $85, $86. I'm going to touch on the $100 price point later on in the video again, but that's what I'm saying when it comes to Iran being involved in conflicts. Crude oil is likely to continue rising. Crude oil is likely to even spike up at that point where Iran gets more involved. And we already saw a glimpse of this on Monday's trading, where the global Brent oil benchmark already rose almost 5% in a single trading day. So that's what happened on Monday. And again, I mentioned Iran, I mentioned their impact on the crude oil prices if they get more involved. If the war expands and more countries from the Gulf region are impacted or at risk, then you're going to see oil prices continue rising, similar to what we had in 1973 with the Yom Kippur War. So that affects global output of oil. And as you've seen last year, when oil prices skyrocket, with the conflicts of Russia and Ukraine, as I mentioned, you'll see that $100 price point being touched on. So what's that $100 price point? Well, to go back to 2008, 2013, and 2022, as I just mentioned, when it came to Russia having conflicts, Russia invading countries, Russia being at war, all three of those times, those 3 years I just mentioned, crude oil reached the $100 price point. Now that's very rare for crude oil. You see it trending, let's say, usually at a two-figure number. All three of those times it reached that $100 price point, which we could see again as conflicts and tensions increase. So expect oil to become more expensive. How does that affect the stock market? Well, a lot of stocks will go down due to fear, due to uncertainty, due to doubt. You'll see certain stocks like the energy sector, XLE, rising. So what kind of stocks will those be? Those will be gas stocks, those will be oil stocks. You'll see stocks like ExxonMobil, ticker symbol XOM, CVX, MRO, Marathon Oil Company. You'll see many of those oil stocks, energy stocks start to increase in price. If you go and look back at the highs from ExxonMobil last year, then you'll see that right around the same time that crude oil hit $100, Exxon pushed to its yearly highs. That's no coincidence. Again, check out Occidental Petroleum, ticker symbol OXY. Go check out MRO, go check out CVX. All those stocks reached their yearly highs right around the time where crude oil prices spiked, where Russia and Ukraine were at their, let's say, worst tensions from what we heard on the news. That's when all those stocks spiked in price due to the oil price spiking as well. So as I've broken it down, if tensions do increase, if more countries are involved, if the US are also getting more involved, you will see a likelihood that stock market will start to decline as investors get more scared, investors get more cautious, investors see more of that fear, uncertainty and doubt that we're so used to in the stock market. You'll see oil prices rising, you'll see gas prices and energy sector rising. You'll also see defense stocks on the rise. Now, I have a different video where I talk about different defense stocks which are involved in different operations when it comes to maritime operations, when it comes to on land, in the air, all those kind of things. Those are the kind of stocks which are going to rise. You're going to see a lot more stocks selling off, your tech stocks, your growth stocks, those stocks which are not really, let's say, classed as important in times of war. Now, another thing which could have an impact on the market is, as you guys may or may not know, Israel is a huge hub for tech startups. So there's a lot of money in there. And of course, as the war goes on, as conflicts increase, you won't be surprised to see that a lot of those tech companies, overall tech companies on the NASDAQ, do start to see a decline in stock price, do start to fall off a little bit. Again, Israel is a huge hub for those tech startups. So a lot of those companies which are involved when it comes to the chips, when it comes to the softwares, when it comes to security, information security, all those kind of things, will start to see a decline in price. That won't be a coincidence, that won't be unexpected, that won't be unheard of. Now, I briefly mentioned information security. Do realize now, and this is where it gets a little bit complicated, that information security is actually vital to maritime operations. So companies who do information security and technology security but are involved in maritime operations will probably still continue rising. Companies that do information security but less involved in maritime operations and sea vessels, that kind of stuff, probably won't see the increase that you expect to see. So hopefully that all made sense. If not, go back and watch all that section again, and if not, go back and watch the rest of the video again, just so you understand everything from start to finish. But as I mentioned, the key things to look out for when it comes to the overall markets right now are how conflicts are being handled, if they're being contained, if they're getting worse and expanding. If they're being contained, then expect the markets to still do their thing, continue rising, or maybe stagnate, but not too bad. If tensions get worse, more countries are involved, you might see more of a fall off, you might see more of that fear. And as that happens, check out the oil prices, watch how the oil prices fare, and like I said, expect them to continue rising. As I said again at the beginning, the most important thing is that you realize on a human level, it's not nice to see what's happening, but from your personal standpoint, make sure you do what you can to take care of your own portfolio, your money, for those of you who are investing in the stock market. But you guys know the drill. As always, it's about love, so show love, drop a thumbs up, comment, share with your friends, and subscribe if you're new around here. It does help in a great way. Honestly, it does help so much, so please just do that. It does take time making these videos, squeezing them in for you, and in the weekdays, no matter when or where, it does take time, so please do that. And of course, check out the Royal Trading Academy, the Discord, the links in the description below. You guys know that's where the stock callouts are, that's where all the shoutouts are, that's where the plays are, the live trading, all that is in the Discord. And then check out the stock option starter pack. There's 10 videos for you guys. You'll have access to those for life. 3 hours worth of content. Again, access to it for life. It's a one-time fee. And lastly, for the last time, this was an educational video, not financial advice. Not a video designed for you to pick sides politically or me giving an opinion on who's right, who's wrong, what should be happening, what shouldn't be happening. I know what shouldn't be happening, and you should know that too. But overall, that's how the Israel-Hamas conflicts are going to affect the stock market right now. And like I said, with other international conflicts, expect to see similar movements when it comes to the stock market.
Game over.